to recruit and retain quality educators in South Carolina, especially considering that those who have been serving our children have not received a pay raise in over 5 years.
The focus needs to be on, just like I focus on morale and law enforcement, you have to focus on morale with teachers. One is we have to want them to want to go into teaching. The second thing that I find the hardest is they go into teaching, they stay a year, 2 years, and they get out. That's our problem in South Carolina, is that they feel somewhat abused and not taken care of. And the only way to do that is to empower the teachers, is when you get in the classroom, let you tell us what you need. Let you go and make sure you do it. The fact that you still have to pay for supplies is wrong. The fact that there are furloughs is wrong. The fact that any of that is happening, as long as there is a top-heavy administrative department in Columbia and top-heavy administrations across the state, is wrong. And if you look at the salary increases across all district levels and look at the teachers, you're not seeing the furloughs and the pay drops at the administrative level, you're seeing it at the teacher level. That's the problem. And then they say to the teachers, if you say anything, then we'll fire you. So it's gotten to where we are trying to get directly to the teachers so that they're not fearful of their administrators. It's something that we're going to have to continue to tackle, but it's something we're going to need your help with as you go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Haley, for coming. My name is Tim Kroboth. I'm president of the College Republicans. So welcome to our campus.
Thank you.
Believe it or not, not all college students at Wintrhop are crazy liberals, so I just wanted to let you know that. And yes, it is indeed a great day to be in South Carolina. But I did want to ask you, Wintrhop receives only 9.6% of its funding from the state, which is one of the lowest percentages among all public schools in the entire country. Can you explain the mechanism that your administration has in order to make sure that enough funds are preserved for the public institutions in the state?
Wintrhop will actually see some help when we go to that new accountability funding, because they will be able to show measurables on what they're doing, as opposed to having to have big lobbyists up at the State House. It will now go down to numbers, and it won't matter how many lobbyists you have at the State House. We just have to get the legislature to take on that funding role. And so what you're going to see is all the college presidents and I stand together and go to the General Assembly and say, this is what we want you to do. And if you do this, we're not asking you to give more money, we're just asking you to hold us accountable on how we do it. And that will put more faith in the General Assembly, it'll put more faith in the people, and I think we will start to see those increases go up based on merit, not based on a handout. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Bowen, and I'm a social work major and also at Wintrhop University. Excuse me if I don't articulate this properly. What are your plans, if any, as far as social workers in South Carolina, as far as jobs and budgeting?
I think the one thing that we've seen with social services, first of all, we brought a rock star of a director in. I brought her in from Hawaii. Her name is Lillian Collar, and the things that she did in Hawaii, if she does half of what she did in Hawaii and South Carolina, we're going to be in a great spot. She reduced the number of adoptions in half. She basically started a welfare to work program in which everybody that she took from welfare and put on work, 98% of them never went back on welfare. That's the kinds of things she's doing. She's focusing on not having, in South Carolina, we've moved children around quite a bit. She's focusing on making sure that we really take care of the child from a health care standpoint. She's working with our Health and Human Services Director. She's also making sure that they have a home and that we're looking at their educational standards. How do we, as a government, when we're in charge, make sure that they can read by the 3rd grade? How do we make sure that we're getting them adopted out quickly? All of those things are happening. So I think you're going to see some really great changes in social services because we have a really great leader. And it's not so much always how much you spend, it's how you choose to spend those dollars. And she's really focusing those dollars on the services that are needed.
I have a follow-up question to the earlier question about funding for the arts. What incentives and actions will you take to encourage private industry to fund the arts if it is no longer a responsibility of the government? And how would prevent the free rider problem in the area of the arts if everyone will enjoy the benefits of the arts, but only a limited portion of society will be responsible for maintaining it?
I think the arts is like everything else. Every charitable organization has to go to businesses and plead their case and say, this is why I think you should have to give me money. The arts came to government and said, we think you should give us money, and what I'm saying is in a time where we're low on law enforcement, we're not getting the education dollars we need, we're having to work on a lot of unemployment. Arts just isn't at the top of the list. It's not that we don't think it's valuable. It's not that we don't think it's needed. We can't afford it in South Carolina. It's just that simple. We can't afford the arts. And so what I would suggest is to any business that asks that we want them to fund the arts. And in the communities that have them, they love the arts and they found the business support for it. But it really is, I could focus on raising money for the arts, or I could focus on getting people jobs. And right now I need to be focused on getting people jobs.
You spoke about performance-based pay for teachers, and how exactly would you go about measuring that? Because if you take it by test scores, doesn't that speak more to the ability to, or it would talk more to the student and how they did, and if they did poorly, wouldn't that reflect the student and not the teacher? Because if the student didn't pay attention to class, is that really the teacher's problem, and is it really their misability to teach, or is it the student's inability to pay attention?
Well, I'll be working with General Zace on how we do that. I can tell you there was a proposal last year by Representative Bakari Sellers that neither General Zace or I supported. We would not do it based on a test. That's a terrible way to do merit-based pay. What you would do is do it based on student accomplishments. And that means right now we have different reading standards and different math standards, and you have to do it per individual, and you also have to do it per culture, because you don't have the technology in certain areas that you have in others. So that's why it really needs to go down into the hands of the principal, and the principal needs to decide what those standards are for the schools. We need to oversee it, but it never needs to be towards the standard of a statewide test. And so I'm working with General Zace on that. That's something that he's going to be coming out with, and something that we'll support together, but it will not be based on a test.